TO MAECENAS. Maecenas, you beneath the myrtle shade, Read o'er what poets sung and shepherds played. What felt those poets but you feel the same? Does not your soul possess the sacred flame? Their noble strains your equal genius shares In softer language and diviner airs: While Homer paints, lo, circumfused in air, Celestial gods in mortal forms appear: Swift as they move hear each recess rebound, Heaven quakes, earth trembles, and the shores resound. Great Sire of verse, before my mortal eyes The lightnings blaze across the vaulted skies, And as the thunder shakes the heavenly plains, A deep felt horror thrills through all my veins. When gentler strains demand thy graceful song, The lengthening line moves languishing along: When great Patroclus courts Achilles' aid, The grateful tribute of my tears is paid. Prone on the shore he feels the pangs of love, And stern Pelides tenderest passions move. Great Maro's strain in heavenly numbers flows, The Nine inspire, and all the bosom glows. O could I rival thine and Virgil's page, Or claim the Muses with the Mantuan sage, Soon the same beauties should my mind adorn, And the same ardours in my soul should burn: Then should my song in bolder notes arise, And all my numbers pleasingly surprise. But here I sit, and mourn a grovelling mind, That fain would mount and ride upon the wind. Not you, my friend, these plaintive strains become; Not you, whose bosom is the Muses' home: When they from towering Helicon retire, They fan in you the bright immortal fire. But I, less happy, cannot raise the song; The faltering music dies upon my tongue. The happier Terence all the choir inspired, His soul replenished and his bosom fired. But say, ye Muses, why this partial grace To one alone of Afric's sable race? From age to age transmitting thus his name, With the finest glory in the rolls of fame? Thy virtues, great Maecenas, shall be sung In praise of him, from whom those virtues sprung. While blooming wreaths around thy temples spread, I'll snatch a laurel from thine honoured head, While you indulgent smile upon the deed. As long as Thames in streams majestic flows, Or Naiads in their oozy beds repose, While Phoebus reigns above the starry train, While bright Aurora purples o'er the main; So long, great Sir, the Muse thy praise shall sing, So long thy praise shall make Parnassus ring. Then grant, Maecenas, thy paternal rays, Hear me propitious, and defend my lays. On Virtue. O thou bright jewel! in my aim I strive to comprehend thee: Thine own words declare Wisdom is higher than a fool can reach. I cease to wonder, and no more attempt Thine height t'explore, or fathom thy profound. But O my soul, sink not into despair! Virtue is near thee, and with gentle hand Would now embrace thee, hovers o'er thine head. Fain would the heaven born soul with her converse, Then seek, then court her for her promised bliss. Auspicious Queen, thine heavenly pinions spread, And lead celestial chastity along. Lo! now her sacred retinue descends, Arrayed in glory from the orbs above. Attend me, Virtue, thro' my youthful years: O leave me not to the false joys of time, But guide my steps to endless life and bliss. Greatness or goodness, say what I shall call thee, To give me an higher appellation still: Teach me a better strain, a nobler lay, O thou! enthroned with cherubs in the realms of day. To the University of Cambridge, in New England. While an intrinsic ardour prompts to write, the Muses promise to assist my pen. 'Twas not long since I left my native shore, the land of errors and Egyptian gloom. Father of mercy, 'twas thy gracious hand brought me in safety from those dark abodes. Students, to you 'tis given to scan the heights above, to traverse the ethereal space, and mark the systems of revolving worlds. Still more, ye sons of science, ye receive the blissful news by messengers from heaven, how Jesus' blood for your redemption flows. See him with hands outstretched upon the cross, immense compassion in his bosom glows. He hears revilers, nor resents their scorn. What matchless mercy in the Son of God! When the whole human race by sin had fallen, he deigned to die that they might rise again, and share with him in the sublimest skies life without death and glory without end. Improve your privileges while they stay, ye pupils, and each hour redeem that bears or good or bad report of you to heaven. Let sin, that baneful evil to the soul, by you be shunned, nor once remit your guard. Suppress the deadly serpent in its egg. Ye blooming plants of human race divine, an Ethiop tells you 'tis your greatest foe. Its transient sweetness turns to endless pain, and in immense perdition sinks the soul. To the King's most excellent Majesty, 1768. Your subjects hope, dread Sire, the crown upon your brows may flourish long, and that your arm may in your God be strong. O may your sceptre numerous nations sway, and all with love and readiness obey. But how shall we the British King reward? Rule thou in peace, our Father and our Lord. Midst the remembrance of thy favours past, the meanest peasants most admire the last. May George, beloved by all the nations round, live with heaven's choicest constant blessings crowned. Great God, direct and guard him from on high, and from his head let every evil fly, and may each clime with equal gladness see a monarch's smile can set his subjects free. On being brought from Africa to America. 'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Saviour too. Once I redemption neither fought nor knew. Some view our sable race with scornful eye, their colour is a diabolic dye. Remember, Christians, Negroes black as Cain may be refined and join the angelic train. On the death of the Reverend Dr. Sewell, 1769. Ere yet the morn its lovely blushes spread, see Sewell numbered with the happy dead. Hail, holy man, arrived the immortal shore, though we shall hear thy warning voice no more. Come, let us all behold with wishful eyes the saint ascending to his native skies. From hence the prophet winged his rapturous way to the blest mansions in eternal day. Then begging for the Spirit of our God, and panting eager for the same abode, come, let us all with the same vigour rise, and take a prospect of the blissful skies, while on our minds Christ's image is impressed, and the dear Saviour glows in every breast. Thrice happy faint, to find thy heaven at last, what compensation for the evils past! Great God, incomprehensible, unknown by sense, we bow at thine exalted throne. O, while we beg thine excellence to feel, thy sacred Spirit to our hearts reveal, and give us of that mercy to partake, which thou hast promised for the Saviour's sake. Sewell is dead. Swift pinioned Fame thus cried. "Is Sewell dead?" my trembling tongue replied. O what a blessing in his flight denied! How oft for us the holy prophet prayed, How oft to us the word of life conveyed! By duty urged my mournful verse to close, I for his tomb this epitaph compose. Lo! here a man, redeemed by Jesus' blood, A sinner once, but now a saint with God. Behold, ye rich, ye poor, ye fools, ye wise, Nor let this monument your heart surprise: 'Twill tell you what this holy man has done, Which gives him brighter lustre than the sun. Listen, ye happy from your seats above: I speak sincerely: while I speak and love, He fought the paths of piety and truth, By these made happy from his early youth: In blooming years that grace divine he felt, Which rescues sinners from the chains of guilt. Mourn him, ye indigent, whom he has fed, And henceforth seek, like him, for living bread; Even Christ, the bread descending from above, And ask an interest in his saving love. Mourn him, ye youth, to whom he oft has told God's gracious wonders from the times of old. I too have cause this mighty loss to mourn, For he, my monitor, will not return. O when shall we to his blest state arrive, When the same graces in our bosoms thrive? On the death of the Reverend Mr. George Whitefield, 1770. Hail, happy saint, on thine immortal throne, Possessed of glory, life, and bliss unknown! We hear no more the music of thy tongue, Thy wonted auditories cease to throng, Thy sermons in unequalled accents flowed, And every bosom with devotion glowed. Thou didst in strains of eloquence refined Inflame the heart, and captivate the mind. Unhappy we the setting sun deplore, So glorious once, but ah! it shines no more. Behold the prophet in his towering flight! He leaves the earth for heaven's unmeasured height, And worlds unknown receive him from our sight. There Whitefield wings with rapid course his way, And sails to Zion through vast seas of day. Thy prayers, great saint, and thine incessant cries, Have pierced the bosom of thy native skies. Thou moon hast seen, and all the stars of light, How he has wrestled with his God by night. He prayed that grace in every heart might dwell, He longed to see America excel. He charged its youth that every grace divine Should with full lustre in their conduct shine. That Saviour which his soul did first receive, The greatest gift that even a God can give, He freely offered to the numerous throng, That on his lips with listening pleasure hung. Take him, ye wretched, for your only good; Take him, ye starving sinners, for your food; Ye thirsty, come to this life giving stream; Ye preachers, take him for your joyful theme. Take him, my dear Americans, he said, Be your complaints on his kind bosom laid. Take him, ye Africans, he longs for you, Impartial Saviour is his title due. Washed in the fountain of redeeming blood, You shall be sons, and kings, and priests to God. Great Countess, we Americans revere Thy name, and mingle in thy grief sincere. New England deeply feels, the orphans mourn, Their more than father will no more return. But, though arrested by the hand of death, Whitefield no more exerts his labouring breath. Yet let us view him in the eternal skies, Let every heart to this bright vision rise, While the tomb safe retains its sacred trust, Till life divine reanimates his dust. On the death of a young lady of 5 years of age. From dark abodes to fair ethereal light, Th' enraptured innocent has winged her flight. On the kind bosom of eternal love, She finds unknown beatitude above. This known, ye parents, nor her loss deplore, She feels the iron hand of pain no more. The dispensations of unerring grace Should turn your sorrows into grateful praise. Let then no tears for her henceforward flow, No more distressed in our dark vale below: Her morning sun, which rose divinely bright, Was quickly mantled with the gloom of night. But here in heaven's blest bowers your Nancy fair, And learn to imitate her language there. Thou, Lord, whom I behold with glory crowned, By what sweet name, and in what tuneful sound Wilt thou be praised? Seraphic powers are faint Infinite love and majesty to paint: To thee let all their graceful voices raise, And saints and angels join their songs of praise. Perfect in bliss, she from her heavenly home Looks down, and smiling beckons you to come. Why then, fond parents, why these fruitless groans? Restrain your tears, and cease your plaintive moans. Freed from a world of sin, and snares, and pain, Why would you wish your daughter back again? No, bow resigned: let hope your grief control, And check the rising tumult of the soul: Calm in the prosperous and adverse day, Adore the God who gives and takes away: Eye him in all, his holy name revere, Upright your actions and your hearts sincere, Till having sailed through life's tempestuous sea, And from its rocks and boisterous billows free, Yourselves, safe landed on the blissful shore, Shall join your happy babe to part no more. On the death of a young gentleman. Who taught thee conflict with the powers of night, To vanquish Satan in the fields of light? Who strung thy feeble arms with might unknown? How great thy conquest, and how bright thy crown? War with each princedom, throne, and power is o'er, The scene is ended to return no more. O, could my Muse thy seat on high behold, How decked with laurel, how enriched with gold! O, could she hear what praise thine harp employs, How sweet thine anthems, how divine thy joys! What heavenly grandeur should exalt her strain, What holy raptures in her numbers reign, To soothe the troubles of the mind to peace, To still the tumult of life's tossing seas, To ease the anguish of the parent's heart, What shall my sympathizing verse impart? Where is the balm to heal so deep a wound? Where shall a sovereign remedy be found? Look, gracious Spirit, from thine heavenly bower, And thy full joys into their bosoms pour, The raging tempest of their grief control, And spread the dawn of glory through the soul, To eye the path the saint departed trod, And trace him to the bosom of his God. To a Lady on the death of her husband. Grim monarch! see, deprived of vital breath, A young physician in the dust of death. Dost thou go on incessant to destroy, Our griefs to double, and lay waste our joy? Enough, though never yet was known to say, Though millions die, the vassals of thy sway: Nor youth, nor science, nor the ties of love, Nor aught on earth thy flinty heart can move. The friend, the spouse from his dire dart to save, In vain we ask the Sovereign of the grave. Fair mourner! there see thy loved Leonard laid, And o'er him spread the deep impervious shade: Closed are his eyes, and heavy fetters keep His senses bound in never waking sleep, Till time shall cease, till many a starry world Shall fall from heaven, in dire confusion hurled, Till Nature in her final wreck shall lie, And her last groan shall rend the azure sky: Not till then his active soul shall claim His body, a divine immortal frame. But see the softly stealing tears apace Pursue each other down the mourner's face. But cease thy tears, bid every sigh depart, And cast the load of anguish from thine heart: From the cold shell of his great soul arise, And look beyond, thou native of the skies: There fix thy view, where fleeter than the wind Thy Leonard mounts, and leaves the earth behind. Thyself prepare to pass the vale of night, To join for ever on the hills of light. To thine embrace this joyful spirit moves To thee, the partner of his earthly loves; He welcomes thee to pleasures more refined, And better suited to th' immortal mind. GOLIATH of Gath. 1 Samuel, chapter 17. Ye martial powers, and all ye tuneful nine, Inspire my song, and aid my high design. The dreadful scenes and toils of war I write, The ardent warriors and the fields of fight. You best remember, and you best can sing The acts of heroes to the vocal string. Resume the lays with which your sacred lyre Did then the poet and the sage inspire. Now front to front the armies were displayed, Here Israel ranged, and there the foes arrayed. The hosts on two opposing mountains stood, Thick as the foliage of the waving wood. Between them an extensive valley lay, O'er which the gleaming armour pour'd the day. When from the camp of the Philistine foes, Dreadful to view, a mighty warrior rose. In the dire deeds of bleeding battle skilled, The monster stalks the terror of the field. From Gath he sprung, Goliath was his name, Of fierce deportment and gigantic frame. A brazen helmet on his head was placed, A coat of mail his form terrific graced. The greaves his legs, the targe his shoulders pressed, Dreadful in arms, high towering o'er the rest. A spear he proudly waved, whose iron head, Strange to relate, 600 shekels weighed. He strode along, and shook the ample field, While Phoebus blazed refulgent on his shield. Through Jacob's race a chilling horror ran, When thus the huge enormous chief began: "Say, what the cause that in this proud array You set your battle in the face of day? One hero find in all your vaunting train, Then see who loses and who wins the plain. For he who wins in triumph may demand Perpetual service from the vanquished land. Your armies I defy, your force despise, By far inferior in Philistia's eyes. Produce a man, and let us try the fight, Decide the contest, and the victor's right." Thus challenged he: all Israel stood amazed, And every chief in consternation gazed. But Jesse's son in youthful bloom appears, And warlike courage far beyond his years. He left the folds, he left the flowery meads, And soft recesses of the sylvan shades. Now Israel's monarch and his troops arise, With peals of shouts ascending to the skies. In Elah's vale the scene of combat lies. When the fair morning blush'd with orient red, What David's fire enjoined the sun obeyed, And swift of foot towards the trench he came, Where glow'd each bosom with the martial flame. He leaves his carriage to another's care, And runs to greet his brethren of the war. While yet they spake, the giant chief arose, Repeats the challenge, and insults his foes. Struck with the sound, and trembling at the view, Affrighted Israel from its post withdrew. "Observe ye this tremendous foe," they cried, "Who in proud vaunts our armies hath defied. Whoever lays him prostrate on the plain, Freedom in Israel for his house shall gain. And on him wealth unknown the King will pour, And give his royal daughter for his dower." Then Jesse's youngest hope: "My brethren, say, What shall be done for him who takes away Reproach from Jacob, who destroys the chief, And puts a period to his country's grief? He vaunts the honours of his arms abroad, And scorns the armies of the living God." Thus spoke the youth: th' attentive people eyed The wondrous hero, and again replied: "Such the rewards our monarch will bestow On him who conquers and destroys his foe." Eliab heard, and kindled into ire To hear his shepherd brother thus enquire, And thus began: "What errand brought thee? say, Who keeps thy flock? or does it go astray? I know the base ambition of thine heart. but back in safety from the field depart." Eliab thus to Jesse's youngest heir Expressed his wrath in accents most severe; When to his brother mildly he replied, "What have I done, or what the cause to chide?" The words were told before the king, who sent For the young hero to his royal tent. Before the monarch dauntless he began: "For this Philistine fail no heart of man: I'll take the veil, and with the giant fight: I dread not all his boasts, nor all his might." When thus the king: "Dar'st thou, a stripling, go And venture combat with so great a foe? Who all his days hath been inured to fight, And made its deeds his study and delight? Battles and bloodshed brought the monster forth, And clouds and whirlwinds ushered in his birth." When David thus: "I kept the fleecy care, And out there rushed a lion and a bear: A tender lamb the hungry lion took, And with no other weapon than my crook Bold I pursued, and chased him o'er the field, The prey delivered and the felon killed: As thus the lion and the bear I slew, So shall Goliath fall, and all his crew. The God who saved me from these beasts of prey, By me this monster in the dust shall lay." So David spoke. The wondering king replied: "Go thou with heaven, and victory on thy side: This coat of mail, this sword gird on," he said, And placed a mighty helmet on his head. The coat, the sword, the helm he laid aside, Nor chose to venture with those arms untried. Then took his staff, and to the neighbouring brook Instant he ran, and thence 5 pebbles took. Meantime descended to Philistia's son A radiant cherub, and thus he began: "Goliath, well thou know'st thou hast defied Yon Hebrew armies, and their God denied. Rebellious wretch! audacious worm! Forbear, nor tempt the vengeance of their God Too far: them, who with his omnipotence Contend, no eye shall pity, and no arm defend. Proud as thou art, in short lived glory great, I come to tell thee thine approaching fate. Regard my words: the Judge of all the gods, Beneath whose steps the towering mountain nods, Will give thine armies to the savage brood, That cut the liquid air, or range the wood. Thee too a well aimed pebble shall destroy, And thou shalt perish by a beardless boy. Such is the mandate from the realms above, And should I try the vengeance to remove, Myself a rebel to my King would prove. Goliath, say, shall grace to him be shown, Who dares heaven's monarch, and insults his throne?" "Your words are lost on me," the giant cries, While fear and wrath contended in his eyes. When thus the messenger from heaven replies: "Provoke no more Jehovah's awful hand To hurl its vengeance on thy guilty land. He grasps the thunder, and he wings the storm, Servants their sovereign's orders to perform." The angel spoke, and turned his eyes away, Adding new radiance to the rising day. Now David comes: the fatal stones demand His left, the staff engaged his better hand. The giant moved, and from his towering height Surveyed the stripling, and disdained the fight, And thus began: "Am I a dog with thee? Bring'st thou no armour but a staff to me? The gods on thee their volleyed curses pour, And beasts and birds of prey thy flesh devour." David undaunted thus: "Thy spear and shield Shall no protection to thy body yield. Jehovah's name, no other arms I bear, I ask no other in this glorious war. To day the Lord of Hosts to me will give Victory, to day thy doom thou shalt receive. The fate you threaten shall your own become, And beasts shall be your animated tomb, That all the earth's inhabitants may know That there's a God who governs all below. This great assembly too shall witness stand, That needs nor sword nor spear the Almighty's hand. The battle his, the conquest he bestows, And to our power consigns our hated foes." Thus David spoke. Goliath heard, and came To meet the hero in the field of fame. Ah, fatal meeting to thy troops and thee! But thou wast deaf to the divine decree. Young David meets thee not in vain. 'Tis thine to perish on th' ensanguined plain. And now the youth a forceful pebble slung, Philistia trembled as it whizzed along: In his dread forehead, where the helmet ends, Just o'er the brows the well aimed stone descends: It pierced the skull, and shattered all the brain: Prone on his face he tumbled to the plain. Goliath's fall no smaller terror yields Than riving thunders in aerial fields. The soul still lingered in its loved abode, Till conqu'ring David o'er the giant strode. Goliath's sword then laid its master dead, And from the body he hewed the ghastly head. The blood in gushing torrents drencht the plains, The soul found passage through the spouting veins. And now aloud th' illustrious victor said, "Where are your boastings now your champion's dead?" Scarce had he spoke, when the Philistines fled, But fled in vain, the conqu'ror swift pursued. What scenes of slaughter, and what seas of blood! There Saul thy thousands grasped th' empurpled sand, In pangs of death the conquest of thine hand; And David there were thy 10,000s laid. Thus Israel's damsels musically played. Near Gath and Edron many an hero lay, Breathed out their souls, and cursed the light of day. Their fury, quenched by death, no longer burns, And David with Goliath's head returns, To Salem brought: but in his tent he placed The load of armour which the giant graced. His monarch saw him coming from the war, And thus demanded of the son of Ner: "Say, who is this amazing youth?" he cried; When thus the leader of the host replied, "As lives thy soul, I know not whence he sprung, So great in prowess, though in years so young." "Inquire whose son he is," the sovereign said, "Before whose conqu'ring arm Philistia fled." Before the king behold the stripling stand, Goliath's head depending from his hand. To him the king: "Say, of what martial line Art thou, young hero, and what sire was thine?" He humbly thus: "The son of Jesse I came the glories of the field to try. Small is my tribe, but valiant in the fight; Small is my city, but thy royal right." "Then take the promised gifts," the monarch cried, "Conferring riches and the royal bride. Knit to my soul for ever thou remain With me, nor quit my regal roof again." THOUGHTS ON THE WORKS OF PROVIDENCE. Arise, my soul, on wings enraptured, rise To praise the Monarch of the earth and skies, Whose goodness and beneficence appear As round its centre moves the rolling year; Or when the morning glows with rosy charms, Or the sun slumbers in the ocean's arms. Of light divine be a rich portion lent To guide my soul, and favour my intent. Celestial Muse, my arduous flight sustain, And raise my mind to a seraphic strain. Adored for ever be the God unseen, Which round the sun revolves this vast machine, Though to his eye its mass a point appear: Adored the God that whirls surrounding spheres; Which first ordained that mighty Sol should reign The peerless monarch of th' ethereal train. Of miles twice 40 millions is his height, And yet his radiance dazzles mortal sight So far beneath: from him th' extended earth Vigour derives, and every flow'ry birth. Vast through her orb she moves with easy grace, Around her Phoebus in unbounded space. True to her course th' impetuous storm derides, Triumphant o'er the winds and surging tides. Almighty, in these wondrous works of thine, What power, what wisdom, and what goodness shine! And are thy wonders, Lord, by men explored, And yet creating glory unador'd? Creation smiles in various beauty gay, While day to night, and night succeeds to day. That wisdom which attends Jehovah's ways Shines most conspicuous in the solar rays. Without them, destitute of heat and light, This world would be the reign of endless night. In their excess how would our race complain, Abhorring life, how hate its lengthened chain! From air adust what numerous ills would rise, What dire contagion taint the burning skies? What pestilential vapours fraught with death Would rise and overspread the lands beneath? Hail, smiling morn, that from the orient main Ascending dost adorn the heavenly plain! So rich, so various are thy beauteous dyes, That spread through all the circuit of the skies, That full of thee my soul in rapture soars, And thy great God the cause of all adores. O'er beings infinite his love extends, His wisdom rules them, and his power defends. When tasks diurnal tire the human frame, The spirits faint, and dim the vital flame, Then too that ever active bounty shines, Which not infinity of space confines. The sable veil that night in silence draws, Conceals effects, but shows the Almighty cause. Night seals in sleep the wide creation fair, And all is peaceful but the brow of care. Again gay Phoebus, as the day before, Wakes every eye, but what shall wake no more? Again the face of nature is renewed, Which still appears harmonious, fair, and good. May grateful strains salute the smiling morn, Before its beams the eastern hills adorn. Shall day to day, and night to night conspire, To show the goodness of the Almighty Sire? This mental voice shall man regardless hear, And never, never raise the filial prayer? To day, O hearken, nor your folly mourn, For time misspent that never will return. But see the sons of vegetation rise, And spread their leafy banners to the skies. All wise Almighty Providence we trace In trees and plants, and all the flowery race; As clear as in the nobler frame of man, All lovely copies of the Maker's plan; The power the same that forms a ray of light, That called creation from eternal night. Let there be light, he said; from his profound Old Chaos heard, and trembled at the sound. Swift as the word, inspired by power divine, Behold the light around its Maker shine, The first fair product of the omnific God, And now through all his works diffused abroad. As reason's powers by day our God disclose, So we may trace him in the night's repose. Say what is sleep, and dreams how passing strange, When action ceases, and ideas range Licentious and unbounded o'er the plains, Where Fancy's queen in giddy triumph reigns. Hear in soft strains the dreaming lover sigh To a kind fair, or rave in jealousy. On pleasure now, and now on vengeance bent, The labouring passions struggle for a vent. What power, O man, thy reason then restores, So long suspended in nocturnal hours? What secret hand returns the mental train, And gives improved thine active powers again? From thee, O man, what gratitude should rise! And when from balmy sleep thou op'st thine eyes, Let thy first thoughts be praises to the skies. How merciful our God, who thus imparts O'erflowing tides of joy to human hearts! When wants and woes might be our righteous lot, Our God forgetting, by our God forgot. Among the mental powers a question rose, What most the image of th' Eternal shows? When thus to reason, so let Fancy rove, Her great companion spoke immortal Love. Say, mighty Power, how long shall strife prevail, And with its murmurs load the whispering gale? Refer the cause to Recollection's shrine, Who loud proclaims my origin divine, The cause whence heaven and earth began to be, And is not man immortalized by me? Reason let this most causeless strife subside. Thus Love pronounced, and Reason thus replied: Thy birth, celestial queen, 'tis mine to own, In thee resplendent is the Godhead shown. Thy words persuade, my soul enraptured feels Resistless beauty which thy smile reveals. Ardent she spoke, and kindling at her charms, She clasped the blooming goddess in her arms. Infinite love, where'er we turn our eyes, Appears; this every creature's want supplies. This most is heard in Nature's constant voice, This makes the morn, and this the eve rejoice; This bids the fostering rains and dews descend To nourish all, to serve one general end, The good of man: yet man ungrateful pays But little homage, and but little praise. To Him, whose works arrayed with mercy shine, What songs should rise, how constant, how divine! To a Lady on the Death of three Relations. We trace the power of Death from tomb to tomb, And his are all the ages yet to come: 'Tis his to call the planets from on high, To blacken Phoebus, and dissolve the sky; His too, when all in his dark realms are hurled, From its firm base to shake the solid world: His fatal sceptre rules the spacious whole, And trembling nature rocks from pole to pole. Awful he moves, and wide his wings are spread: Behold thy brother numbered with the dead! From bondage freed, the exulting spirit flies Beyond Olympus and these starry skies. Lost in our woe for thee, blest shade, we mourn in vain; to earth thou never must return. Thy sisters too, fair mourner, feel the dart Of death, and with fresh torture rend thine heart. Weep not for them, and leave the world behind. As a young plant by hurricanes uptorn, So near its parent lies the newly born: But midst the bright ethereal train behold It shines superior on a throne of gold. Then, mourner, cease; let hope thy tears restrain, Smile on the tomb, and soothe the raging pain. On yon blest regions fix thy longing view, Mindless of sublunary scenes below: Ascend the sacred mount, in thought arise, And seek substantial and immortal joys; Where hope receives, where faith to vision springs, And raptured seraphs tune th' immortal strings To strains ecstatic: thou the chorus join, And to thy Father tune the praise divine. To a Clergyman on the Death of his Lady. Where contemplation finds her sacred spring, Where heavenly music makes the arches ring, Where virtue reigns unsullied and divine, Where wisdom throned, and all the graces shine; There sits thy spouse amidst the radiant throng, While praise eternal warbles from her tongue: There choirs angelic shout her welcome round, With perfect bliss, and peerless glory crown'd; While thy dear mate, to flesh no more confined, Exults a blest, and heav'n ascended mind. Say, in thy breast shall floods of sorrow rise? Say, shall its torrents o'erwhelm thine eyes? Amid the seats of heav'n a place is free, And angels open their bright ranks for thee. For thee they wait, and with expectant eye Thy spouse leans downward from th' empyreal sky. O come away, her longing spirit cries, And share with me the raptures of the skies. Our bliss divine to mortals is unknown, Immortal life and glory are our own. There too may the dear pledges of our love Arrive and taste with us the joys above; Attune the harp to more than mortal lays, And join with us the tribute of their praise To Him, who died stern justice to stone, And make eternal glory all our own. He in his death slew ours, and as he rose He crushed the dire dominion of our foes. Vain were their hopes to put the God to flight, Chain us to hell, and bar the gates of light. She spoke, and turned from mortal scenes her eyes, Which beamed celestial radiance o'er the skies. Then, thou dear man, no more with grief retire, Let grief no longer damp devotion's fire, But rise, sublime, to equal bliss aspire. Thy sighs no more be wafted by the wind, No more complain, but be to heav'n resigned. 'Twas thine t' unfold the oracles divine, To soothe our woes the task was also thine. Now sorrow is incumbent on thy heart, Permit the Muse a cordial to impart. Who can to thee their tend'rest aid refuse? To dry thy tears how longs the heavenly Muse! AN HYMN TO THE MORNING. Attend my lays, ye ever honoured Nine, Assist my labours, and my strains refine: In smoothest numbers pour the notes along, For bright Aurora now demands my song. Aurora, hail! and all the thousand dies, Which deck thy progress through the vaulted skies. The morn awakes, and wide extends her rays; On every leaf the gentle zephyr plays; Harmonious lays the feathered race resume, Dart the bright eye, and shake the painted plume. Ye shady groves, your verdant gloom display, To shield your poet from the burning day. Calliope, awake the sacred lyre, While thy fair sisters fan the pleasing fire. The bowers, the gales, the variegated skies, In all their pleasures in my bosom rise. See in the east the lustrious king of day, His rising radiance drives the shades away. But oh, I feel his fervid beams too strong, And scarce begun, concludes th' abortive song. AN HYMN TO THE EVENING. Soon as the sun forsook the eastern main, The pealing thunder shook the heavenly plain. Majestic grandeur! from the zephyr's wing Exhales the incense of the blooming spring. Soft purl the streams, the birds renew their notes, And through the air their mingled music floats. Through all the heavens what beauteous dyes are spread! But the west glories in the deepest red. So may our breasts with every virtue glow, The living temples of our God below. Filled with the praise of Him who gives the light, And draws the sable curtains of the night. Let placid slumbers soothe each weary mind, At morn to wake more heavenly, more refined. So shall the labours of the day begin More pure, more guarded from the snares of sin. Night's leaden sceptre seals my drowsy eyes; Then cease my song, till fair Aurora rise. Isaiah 63, 1–8. Say, heavenly Muse, what king or mighty god That moves sublime from Idumea's road? In Bosrah's dyes with martial glories joined, His purple vesture waves upon the wind. Why thus enrobed delights he to appear In the dread image of the power of war? Compressed in wrath the swelling winepress groaned, It bled, and poured the gushing purple round. Mine was the act, th' Almighty Saviour said, And shook the dazzling glories of his head. When all forsook I trod the press alone, And conquered by Omnipotence my own. For man's release sustained the ponderous load, For man the wrath of an immortal God. To execute th' Eternal's dread command My soul I sacrificed with willing hand. Sinless I stood before the avenging frown, Atoning thus for vices not my own. His eye the ample field of battle round Surveyed, but no created succours found. His own omnipotence sustained the right, His vengeance sunk the haughty foes in night. Beneath his feet the prostrate troops were spread, And round him lay the dying and the dead. Great God, what lightning flashes from thine eyes! What power withstands if thou indignant rise? Against thy Zion though her foes may rage, And all their cunning, all their strength engage, Yet she serenely on thy bosom lies, Smiles at their arts, and all their force defies. On Recollection. Mneme, begin: inspire, ye sacred Nine, Your venturous Afric in her great design. Mneme, immortal power, I trace thy spring: Assist my strains while I thy glories sing. The acts of long departed years, by thee Recovered, in due order ranged we see. thy power the long forgotten calls from night, that sweetly plays before the fancy's sight. Mneme in our nocturnal visions pours the ample treasure of her secret stores. Swift from above the wings her silent flight through Phoebe's realms, fair regent of the night; and in her pomp of images displayed, to the high raptured poet gives her aid. Through the unbounded regions of the mind, diffusing light celestial and refined. The heavenly phantom paints the actions done By every tribe beneath the rolling sun. Mneme, enthroned within the human breast, Has vice condemned, and every virtue blest. How sweet the sound when we her plaudit hear! Sweeter than music to the ravished ear; Sweeter than Maro's entertaining strains Resounding through the groves, and hills, and plains. But how is Mneme dreaded by the race, Who scorn her warnings and despise her grace? By her unveiled each horrid crime appears, Her awful hand a cup of wormwood bears. Days, years misspent, oh what a hell of woe! Hers the worst tortures that our souls can know. Now 18 years their destined course have run In fast succession round the central sun. How did the follies of that period pass Unnoticed, but behold them writ in brass! In recollection see them fresh return, And sure 'tis mine to be ashamed and mourn. O Virtue, smiling in immortal green, Do thou exert thy power and change the scene. Be thine employ to guide my future days, And mine to pay the tribute of my praise. Of recollection such the power enthroned In every breast, and thus her power is owned. The wretch who dared the vengeance of the skies At last awakes in horror and surprise. By her alarmed, he sees impending fate, He howls in anguish, and repents too late. But oh! what peace, what joys are hers t'impart To every holy, every upright heart! Thrice blest the man, who, in her sacred shrine, Feels himself sheltered from the wrath divine. On Imagination. Thy various works, imperial Queen, we see, How bright their forms, how decked with pomp by thee. Thy wondrous acts in beauteous order stand, And all attest how potent is thine hand. From Helicon's refulgent heights attend, Ye sacred choir, and my attempts befriend. To tell her glories with a faithful tongue, Ye blooming Graces, triumph in my song. Now here, now there the roving fancy flies, Till some loved object strikes her wandering eyes, Whose silken fetters all the senses bind, And soft captivity involves the mind. Imagination, who can sing thy force? Or who describe the swiftness of thy course? Soaring through air to find the bright abode, Th' imperial palace of the thundering God, We on thy pinions can surpass the wind, And leave the rolling universe behind. From star to star the mental optics rove, Measure the skies, and range the realms above. There in one view we grasp the mighty whole, Or with new worlds amaze th' unbounded soul. Though winter frowns to Fancy's raptured eyes, The fields may flourish, and gay scenes arise. The frozen deeps may break their iron bands, And bid their waters murmur o'er the sands. Fair Flora may resume her fragrant reign, And with her flowery riches deck the plain. Sylvanus may diffuse his honours round, And all the forest may with leaves be crowned. Showers may descend, and dews their gems disclose, And nectar sparkle on the blooming rose. Such is thy power, nor are thine orders vain, O thou the leader of the mental train. In full perfection all thy works are wrought, And thine the sceptre o'er the realms of thought. Before thy throne the subject passions bow, Of subject passions sovereign ruler thou. At thy command joy rushes on the heart, And through the glowing veins the spirits dart. Fancy might now her silken pinions try To rise from earth, and sweep th' expanse on high. From Tithon's bed now might Aurora rise, Her cheeks all glowing with celestial dyes, While a pure stream of light o'erflows the skies. The monarch of the day I might behold, And all the mountains tipped with radiant gold: But I reluctant leave the pleasing views, Which Fancy dresses to delight the Muse. Winter austere forbids me to aspire, And northern tempests damp the rising fire: They chill the tides of Fancy's flowing sea. Cease then, my song, cease the unequal lay. A FUNERAL POEM on the death of C. E., an infant of 12 months. Through airy roads he wings his instant flight To purer regions of celestial light. Enlarged he sees unnumbered systems roll, Beneath him sees the universal whole: Planets on planets run their destined round, And circling wonders fill the vast profound. Th' ethereal now, and now th' empyreal skies, With growing splendours strike his wondering eyes. The angels view him with delight unknown, Press his soft hand, and seat him on his throne. Then smiling thus: "To this divine abode, The seat of angels, of seraphs, and of God, Thrice welcome thou." The raptured babe replies: "Thanks to my God, who snatched me to the skies Ere vice triumphant had possessed my heart, Ere yet the tempter had beguiled my heart, Ere yet on sin's base actions I was bent, Ere yet I knew temptation's dire intent, Ere yet the lash for horrid crimes I felt, Ere vanity had led my way to guilt: But soon arrived at my celestial goal, Full glories rush on my expanding soul." Joyful he spoke: exulting cherubs round Clapt their glad wings, the heavenly vaults resound. Say, parents, why this unavailing moan? Why heave your pensive bosoms with the groan? To Charles, the happy subject of my song, A brighter world and nobler strains belong. Say, would you tear him from the realms above By thoughtless wishes and preposterous love? Doth his felicity increase your pain? Or could you welcome to this world again The heir of bliss? With a superior air methinks he answers, with a smile severe: "Thrones and dominions cannot tempt me there." But still you cry: "Can we the sigh forbear, And still must we not pour the tear?" Our only hope, more dear than vital breath, 12 moons revolved, becomes the prey of death. Delightful infant, nightly visions give thee to our arms, and we with joy receive, we fain would clasp the phantom to our breast, The phantom flies, and leaves the soul unblest. To yon bright regions let your faith ascend, Prepare to join your dearest infant friend, In pleasures without measure, without end. To Captain H. D. of the 65th Regiment. Say, Muse divine, can hostile scenes delight The warrior's bosom in the fields of fight? Lo, here the Christian and the hero join With mutual grace to form the man divine. In H. D. see with pleasure and surprise, Where valour kindles, and where virtue lies. Go, hero brave, still grace the post of fame, And add new glories to thine honour'd name. Still to the field, and still to virtue true, Britannia glories in no son like you. To the Right Honourable William, Earl of Dartmouth, His Majesty's Principal Secretary of State for North America, &c. Hail, happy day, when smiling like the morn Fair Freedom rose New England to adorn! The northern clime beneath her genial ray, Dartmouth congratulates thy blissful sway. Elate with hope her race no longer mourns, Each soul expands, each grateful bosom burns, While in thine hand with pleasure we behold The silken reins, and Freedom's charms unfold. Long lost to realms beneath the northern skies, She shines supreme, while hated faction dies. Soon as appeared the goddess long desired, Sick at the view, she languished and expired. Thus from the splendours of the morning light, The owl in sadness seeks the caves of night. No more, America, in mournful strain Of wrongs and grievance unredressed complain. No longer shalt thou dread the iron chain, Which wanton tyranny with lawless hand Had made, and with it meant t' enslave the land. Should you, my lord, while you peruse my song, Wonder from whence my love of freedom sprung, Whence flow these wishes for the common good, By feeling hearts alone best understood, I, young in life, by seeming cruel fate Was snatched from Afric's fancied happy seat. What pangs excruciating must molest, What sorrows labour in my parent's breast! Steeled was that soul, and by no misery moved, That from a father seized his babe beloved. Such my case; and can I then but pray Others may never feel tyrannic sway? For favours past, great Sir, our thanks are due, And thee we ask thy favours to renew: Since in thy power, as in thy will before, To soothe the griefs which thou didst once deplore, May heavenly grace the sacred sanction give To all thy works, and thou for ever live, Not only on the wings of fleeting fame, Though praise immortal crowns the patriot's name, But to conduct to heaven's refulgent fane, May fiery coursers sweep th' ethereal plain, And bear thee upwards to that blest abode, Where, like the prophet, thou shalt find thy God.